Thank you, Guadalupe, for forecasting our financial landscape and the difficult conversations around trade-offs and priorities that lie ahead of all of us. Good morning, everyone. As Guadalupe indicated, our revenue growth is slowing, but our expenses are growing. Let me start with a very quick recap. Thank you. Hear me better now? Let me start with a quick recap of our local control funding formula for LCFF, which is the largest portion of our district's revenues. If you recall, we receive a base allocation, which is calculated based on our average daily attendance, and that's multiplied by a base rate, a pupil funding rate. In addition to that, we receive additional LCFF funding based on our 2 grade spans, K to 3 class size reduction, and our grades 9 to 12 career tech education. Additionally, we receive funding in the form of supplemental and concentration grants, which is generated by our student demographics, which is the number of students who are either low-income English learners or foster youth. Our LCFF funding is projected to only increase by a cost of living adjustment of 1.48% next year. This increase is obviously insufficient to cover our mandatory increases in contributions to our retirement system, let alone for any other cost increases. So this would mean that we need to make budget cuts. I was recently given the moniker of being Miss Doom and Gloom, and unfortunately I won't be disappointing you today. However, as Guadalupe indicated, we are committed to continuing prioritizing investments in both accelerating achievement for our focal students, as well as recruiting, retaining, and developing our excellent staff. And first and foremost, this means a continued commitment to increasing teacher salaries. We are in the 5th year of our LCFF implementation. However, as you will see from this chart, unlike what we saw in the previous 4 years, where the state provided significant funding to rapidly close the gap between our full funding target, which is the gray bar, and the current funding levels, the orange bar. In the next 4 years, we see that rate of closure of that gap towards full funding is slowing. It is important to realize that our state funding levels have yet to reach our 2007 levels of funding, and that California continues to rank in the bottom 20% of all states for funding education. What you're seeing here behind me is a bunch of numbers that represent a high-level summary of our unrestricted general fund revenue and expenditure budget and projections for the next 3 fiscal years. And starting in the current year and for the next 3 years, we are projecting that our expenditures will significantly outpace our revenues, which will result in a decreasing fund balance. And this is a budget that is not balanced, and it is not sustainable over the long run. This increase in expenditures is due primarily to salary increases based on commitments that we have made to date, as well as mandatory employee benefit cost increases, as we show in the next slide. As you can see, ongoing employee salary and benefit increases are the largest category of increased spending and total around $12.7 million. And increases we have just sent out our school site allocations, and embedded in those allocations is an increase in our site allocations, as well as a small increase in our MTSS. These are the second largest category of new expenditures. I hope you've been given a pretty good overall picture of our financial situation in the years to come. And for more details on how these numbers affect your own budget, as well as details on the next steps in our budget and strategic planning process, let me introduce Tu Kang, our Executive Director of Budget Services.